Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So now the third word of the sutra, of the first sutra, is analyzed, and that is Brahma Jignasa. Okay? So Jignasa, the meaning of Jignasa is Jnatum Ichha. Okay? Desire to know. And what is an object which is desired to be known? Brahman. Right? So that's why it's a compound, which is what? That Brahma Jignasa is one word. Jignasa refers to desire to know, and then what the object of that desire to know is Brahman, and that forms one word, Brahma Jignasa. Okay. Now, the generally what would happen is you would just begin to then start talking about Brahman, but here at every point there is an objection or a question, right? So people don't just let you proceed with your story. There is always this somebody who is questioning you on what you are saying, and the whole point of that question is that what our own understanding, even if we don't have those questions, when those questions are raised, we are not able to, if we are not able to answer those questions, then they become what? Our questions too, right? So even if you are not thinking, certain questions are raised for you to think about and then answered. This is how, what happens, your knowledge becomes deeper and firmer, right? So therefore, here there is a question. Here says that, okay, now you're telling me that I have to know Brahman, right? So what is this Brahman that you are talking about, right? That is it something which is known to me or not? So he says, if it is known to me, then I don't need the Vedas, right? If Brahman is known to me, do I need Vedas for it? I don't need it, right? And if it is totally not known to me, how will Upanishad convey it to me? Right? Because Brahman is not presented as an object. It is presented as what? It is something which is limitless. So now, how will, right? Because I can only see things which are available to me, these words that Upanishads are using, how will it make me understand something which is not an object? Because the only way I can understand is what we think, that it's the experience. By experience, what do we mean? Perception. When I say I have to experience it, I mean that it has to be available for my perception. But the minute it becomes what? Something which is available to me for perception, it becomes what? An object which is limited in time and space. Please understand. An object which is limited in time and space, it is only this object and not every other object. So therefore, it is said, said that how will this Upanishads make you understand Brahman? Right? There is a catch here. So therefore, we have to answer that question. So the answer is, okay, that if Brahman was something which is other than you, and if the Upanishads had to show it to you, and if it is not available for your objectification, will you ever know it? You will never know it. But if this Brahman that Upanishad is talking about is not an object, but if it is you yourself, then what? There is a possibility of knowing it. Right? If it was totally unknown to you, it will never be known. Right? Because it's not an object. So therefore, you say that Brahman, which is talked about in the Upanishads, is not totally unknown to us. It is what? It is known to us as what? What did you say?
It is known to us, but it is covered.
Excellent. Right? It is known to us as I. This Brahman that Vedanta is talking about is known to us as I. Then the objection is, if it is already known to us as I, why do you need Upanishad? Then, as Alok says, it is known to us as I, but it is not totally known as it is covered.
As such that I is not known to us because of certain reasons.
Exactly. So that means I is not totally not known. Please understand, right? I is known to us. Every transaction that we have in this world is what? For I. I am this, I am that. So it's not that I is totally not known. But what? The I is not known as Brahman. I is known as what?
The body, the mind.
The body, the mind, the memory. Exactly. So therefore, this knowledge of Brahman is not about an object. Brahman can never be understood as an object. It's not one of the objects like many other objects, which is unknown to you and then it will be known. Because if it was like that, it would come within the purview of
Perception and inference.
excellent. It would come within the purview of perception and inference. If Brahman was totally unknown to you, there is no access that Veda has. It is known to you as I, but if it is already totally known exactly as it is meant to be known, then also Veda is redundant. But it is known to you as I, but with a mistake. That I is taken to be what? As good as the body-mind sense complex. So now the Upanishads have to free my I from that limitation and show that I to be what?
Limitless.
Brahman, limitless. Right? So therefore, the word Brahman, so here he says that this Brahman, okay, as Atma, the Brahman itself, right, comes from the word bruhi, in the sense of big. Right? Every Sanskrit word has a root, and the root shows the meaning of the noun. So the word Brahman comes from the root bruhi in the sense of big, being big. So now, generally when we use the word big, how do we use it as? We use it as an adjective, right? So that means there is a noun and then there is an adjective which is big, which is qualifying that noun, right? So when I say big table, this is a big table. So that means it conveys what? There are many tables in the room, and then I say what? I am talking about the big table. What will that adjective do? the job that adjective will do? It will distinguish one object from the other objects. And the bigness that it conveys is dependent upon what?
The other tables are the reference points which you already have over there.
Excellent, right? The other tables are the reference points, right? Because then in this room, the biggest table could be smaller than
Some other table.
some other table. So that means that big is always relative. When I use the word big, it is always relative. Because it's used as an adjective. Now, if I use the same adjective, which is big, with reference to mountain, the whole scale of bigness, what? Changes completely. Because a big table can be only this big, but a big mountain can be how big?
Huge.
Huge. Right? So therefore, I'm using one word big, but the connotation of that bigness keeps changing in your mind. Right? It is because it's relative. It depends upon the noun that it qualifies. Right? Now, I want to convey Atma as big. So big means how big? Brahman. But big, then you can say, but that big is all relative only. Because every time the word big is always relative. Right? So this is where the trick is. The Upanishads are clever.
To make it a noun itself.
Exactly. Excellent. Instead of using it as an adjective, where adjective, the bigness it indicates depends upon the noun. Here, you make it into a noun itself. When you make it into a noun, you don't restrict it by
Any relative.
any relative. Excellent.
You don't need any qualification to that.
Excellent. You don't need, it doesn't get the meaning of the word big doesn't get restricted by
The relative.
the relative. It's not relatively big. So this is why if you think that Atma is Brahman, means it's big, and therefore you have to feel the sense of expanse. That experience of feeling of sense of expanse exists within time and space or not? Yes. And that expanse which was not there 1 minute ago has come now. Can you call it limitless? No. Because it is within time and space. It was not there 1 minute ago. And it is now come and it is going to go away in what? How long will it last? The feeling of expanse?
1 minute.
1 minute. So therefore, we are not talking about what? When we talk about big, we are not talking about something which certain feeling that I get within time and space. In a countless flow of time, my feeling of expanse is what? What is the duration of that feeling of expanse?
Limited.
1 minute, which is how significant in a countless flow of time? Nothing. It's insignificant. Okay? So therefore, what is indicated by big is not a matter of what? Some little experience of expansion that we anticipate that it is. When Upanishads talk about that, when they talk about Brahman, they talk about something which is much more than that. You have to understand that. Right? Is it clear? Yeah. So therefore, this big you can't say it's limitlessly big and it lasts for 1 minute. You see the logical error in that? You can't even say it is limitlessly big and it lasts for 10 minutes.
big to me gives the impression of dimension.
Exactly. And therefore, this whole dimension of bigness itself is what, with reference, when you talk about bigness in terms of dimension, it becomes a relative term. Here, the bigness that is talked about is not in terms of dimensions, but because of which everything else exists. It's a different thing altogether. Okay, so therefore, this Atma that Upanishad wants to convey to you has no dimensions. It is the truth of when can there be a bigness which does not have dimension? Tell me.
It's beyond time and space.
Excellent. The only thing which can be big without any dimension is that which is truth of time and space. If it is subject to time and space, then it is restricted. Right? So now you have to understand, you have a big job to do, because you have to understand Atma, I, as limitlessly big, and limitlessly big implies not subject to time and space. Otherwise, we don't even know what is limitless. We don't even know. We just think it's some kind of an expansion.
Yeah, it cannot be measured or quantified.
Excellent. Excellent. Right? Because any measure is within what, if it's for an object which is within time and space. And that bigness that we talk about is always relative. Right? So now you have a huge job to do. You have to understand that this Atma is Brahman, which is limitlessly big, and it is what, in order for it to be limitlessly big, it has to be what? Truth of time and space. And not within, it's not an object within time and space. Okay, so now how will you understand that? That is a huge thing to understand. That little I that I think I'm this little struggling I have to now use Upanishads to understand its truth of time and space. So that is exactly what Upanishad is going to do. The second sutra. What is this Brahman that Upanishad wants you to understand? It is Janmantyasya Yataha. Second sutra. Okay, so therefore, Janmantyasya Yataha, this Brahman is, what is this Brahman? Janmadi Asya Yataha. This is again, the second sutra has how many words? 3 words. Right? So therefore, Janmadi. Janmadi, Adi means etc. Etc. means what? Then there is a whole big discussion. What is the term etc.? What does it indicate? Janma etc. What do you think this etc. means?
Other things.
Here, many lifetimes.
No.
Yes, so many birds, true,
Many
but
birds.
etc.
Everything else.
Living, birth, death,
Everything else means what?
life,
Creation.
death.
Including time.
That is true. The Janma including time and space, wonderful.
Birth
But-
of everything.
Birth of everything, but Janma etc. means there are 2 other conditions that you see in this universe. Destruction and sustenance. So that means Brahman is from where what? The creation, the sustenance and the destruction of asya. Asya refers to what? Of all this. All this is what? Jagat. Jagat means the universe. Okay? Asya jagataha janma sthitihi laya is from where? From where? What is the source of this? This is yataha, from which? From which what? Brahman. So now Brahman is revealed to be from where the entire what? Birth, sustenance and the destruction of the universe happens. Wow. Now, Janma of what? Janma of all this. So that means all the objects. So birth of all the objects. Now, all these objects exist within what? Time and space. So therefore, the time and space, was it there before creation or it is part of the creation? Part of creation. Lovely. Right? So therefore, as Savita and Alok say, that this Brahman is from where not only the objects come, but also from where what? The time and space comes.
Is that the reason of illusion?
1 minute. Just the time, space and object framework comes from where? This Brahman. In the Advaita Bhashya, what did we see was a Brahman, what? Awareness. We saw that. Right? That I am not this body, because this body is nothing but cells. I am not the mind, because mind is nothing but different thoughts which come and go. I am that presence which is awareness. Right? Which is, what we saw is also that awareness has no boundaries. Right? It is something which is not specific to your body, it is something like space, it is all pervasive. Right? So from this awareness, now the entire time, space and object framework comes. How can you fathom that?
No.
You can't fathom it. Right? And this is why the first time when I explained, Marisa's question was, yeah, I understand this whole thing is awareness, but what about all these objects and, where do they come from? That was your question. If you remember or not, I remember. Right? So now it explains. From this awareness, what comes? The time, comes the space, and comes all the objects. This is very hard to fathom, so there is one example that we can all use to see clearly how it is so. And that is the example that Surya was talking about in his meditation. What is that example? That of dream. Every night you go to sleep and you create dream world, dream time, dream space, dream objects. The entire cause for this dream world that you see is what? Exactly. The awareness which takes the shape of what? Dream mountains. It takes the shape of what? Dream river. It takes the shape of what? Dream characters. But while you're in the dream, what do you know that? You don't know it. So you take yourself to be what? One character in that dream, and what happens? You start interacting with other dream characters. And that interaction gives you what? Feelings,
identity.
sensations,
Your identity.
your sense of identity. It can also give you what? Emotions. That's why you can say, oh, I had a nightmare, and you just wake up, right? Why? When it is all a play on what?
No, but it also gives solutions.
Excellent. The dream can also, within dream, you will
Yeah.
also find solutions. So that means the whole play of what? Seeing the objects, the problems, the interaction of different objects within that dream world, the problems which arise because of that interaction, the solution that comes, right? Everything happens within what?
The dream.
Only one. What is the substance of the dream? Your awareness. There is only one substance. Is there any second thing in your dream other than your awareness? There is no other substance. But while in the dream, do you know that? You don't know it.
I think that's the purest form of awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah, provided you are an observer.
Absolutely. What is trying to, this dream is only an example to make you see what?
Distinguishing.
That there is a possibility of what? One awareness becoming what? All the different
Objects.
objects. Please understand.
And does the awareness gets created by choice?
1 second. All this, I'm just go through this
Okay.
whole Bhasyam. The whole teaching has its own method of revealing certain things. So just stay with this teaching a little bit. Because just because it is like that in the dream doesn't necessarily prove that it is like that in the waking. So there is a method to show it. Just follow the logic. So now, the plausibility that it is possible, because otherwise it's even unfathomable, that how from this awareness the whole universe that you see has come. So in order to show you that it is possible, what is the example that Upanishads use? The example that the Upanishad use is that of your dream. It makes you, uses that as an example. It's only an example. Please understand, it doesn't prove anything. Just to make your mind, what? Be open to the possibility that from one awareness comes what? The whole dream world, which has different forms, different characters. Some things are sentient, some things are insentient. The mountains that you see, are they sentient or insentient? Insentient. The rivers that you see, are they sentient or insentient? Insentient. The characters that you see in the dream, they are sentient or insentient? They are sentient. They are because they are interacting. So everything, what, which is sentient and insentient is created by what?
Awareness.
One awareness. While becoming as though the mountain, does the awareness become the mountain? No. Because when you wake up, what happens? That awareness has become mountain? No. So that means the whole thing comes into picture while entire dream world comes into being. Has awareness become any of that? No. Oh my God. The dream time from the awareness. Dream space from the awareness. Dream characters. sentient and insentient. From where? Awareness. The interactions from awareness. The interactions bringing certain feelings from awareness. The whole show is taking place in awareness, while awareness, is it undergoing any transformation? No. Awareness is always free. This is only in the dream world. Now, how does it apply to the waking world? Just because it is like that in the dream world doesn't mean that it has to be like that in the waking world. So now, you have to come to waking world. How can you understand that the birth, the sustenance and the destruction of everything that you see is from what?
Awareness.
That awareness which is what?
Brahman.
Self-evident to you in your buddhi as what? I, which you then mix up with this little body and mind. That awareness, because of which you are able to know the presence of everything, is from where the entire Jagat has come. Entire Jagat means what? Time, space and objects. How are Upanishads going to prove that? Tough. Because it is tough, they are smart. They have a methodology. A methodology which is a very intelligent methodology to make you see how everything comes from this awareness. In order, that methodology is called Satyam and Mithya. Okay? So Satyam is defined as that which has independent existence. And Mithya is defined as that which has a dependent existence. Mithya, I want to stress, does not mean illusion, it does not mean magic, it does not mean some kind of a fantasy, it just means that something which has a dependent reality. Okay, so what is meant by all of that? And how is it going to prove that everything comes from awareness? There is a connection. Okay? The connection is the following. If I ask you, what is this object in my hand, what would you say?
Glass.
It's a glass. Now if Rupa says it's glass, and it's true, right? Is it an illusion? Is it delusion? No. It is a glass. Everybody in this room will agree that it is a glass. Does anybody disagree? No, nobody's, everybody is scared to answer because they know there is a catch. Right? So therefore, yes, it is a glass. I would agree with her. But in addition to agreeing with her, I would say, Rupa, it's true that it is glass, but excellent. I think I see steel here and you see glass here. So let's do one thing. Let me take away the steel and you take the glass. What will I get? What will she get?
Nothing.
I get steel and she gets glass.
She gets nothing.
She gets nothing. Magic. We have two words here. What are the words? Steel and glass. There are two words But there is what? How many substances? Only one substance. If there is only one substance, why do I have two names?
Two different versions.
Is that, are these two different versions?
Awareness is
One is dependent on the other.
Excellent. One is the form, glass, so she's not totally wrong. The other is what?
The substance.
The substance, the content, the substance. So therefore, that substance can be used to make what? A thali. So that's why I need the name glass, because that glass is different from what? Thali. And that thali is different from the katori. So therefore, you can't just keep using only one word, steel. You have to use different words because they do refer to what? Different forms. One is a glass, the second is katori, the third is spoon, the fourth is what? Thali,
bowl.
bowl, all kinds of steel, tapelis and I don't know, all kinds of different things. So therefore, what is our orientation? We give reality to forms. When we give reality to forms, how many things do we see? If I keep the glass and katori and thali and bowl and spoon, how many things will I see? Many. But if I pay attention to the content, which is steel, I'll see only one. I'll see only one because what? What is the relationship between steel and the cup and all the different forms? What is the relationship?
The underlying substance.
Excellent. That the forms depend upon the substance, but the substance, does it depend upon the form? No. Satyam and Mithya. Forms are many, true. But we get fooled by the forms. We give more reality to the forms than to, we miss the substance. So therefore, now I've come to the point that what? The steel is reality. So now, do you think that the ultimate vision of Vedanta is that the steel is now the reality? No. What is the reality? Brahman. So from steel, we have to go further down. Now that steel, which is the substance of every, what? Different forms, itself, what is it?
Atoms, molecules.
Atoms and particles. Right? So now, before, in that first level of inquiry, all these forms became mithya and steel became satyam. Now the satyam steel itself has become what? Mithya. Right? So now, what? That if you take out the particles, there is no steel. That means the steel itself has a dependent existence. It is also mithya. Then, what is then more real compared to the steel? The particles. The atoms, and then atoms is particles. Then how far can we continue? Exactly. The science which depends upon pratyaksha, it goes on till where? Infinite.
No, to a point where you can perceive it one way or the other.
Excellent. To the point where you can perceive. But after after a point, it is not available for perception.
Fades.
It fades. Right? So therefore, what we say, this is where Vedanta walks in. Because science fades, because you can't perceive anymore, it remains what? Just a concept. It becomes a concept. There is nothing which is tangible anymore after a certain point. A physicist understands it very well. So, when Vedanta walks in, it says that concept and awareness, what is the relationship? Can a concept exist without awareness? No. No concept can exist without awareness. But does awareness depend upon the concept? No. So therefore, the entire steel cup, what have I done? I have resolved into where? Awareness. First I resolve the cup into steel, then I resolve that steel into atoms, then I resolve that atoms into particles, and those particles as what? Concept, and then I resolve it into what? Awareness. Now you take any object in the universe, like steel, take any object. Your body. This body, what is it?
Bones and skins and
We saw all of that, right? Bones and marrows and muscles and nerves and water and blood and all kinds of things, right? That you take to be I. Now that itself is what, as Surya keeps reminding you in a morning meditation, it's all what? Billions of cells. And those cells are what also? Nothing but the same atoms. And atoms are nothing but particles. And those particles, what? Again, what? They lose their tangibility and it becomes a concept. And that concept, what? Depends upon awareness. So now, that your body, what? Depends upon that awareness, whereas awareness is what? Independent of it. But not only your body, every other body is what? Mithya means what? It ultimately resolves into awareness. The body of a cow, same. Body of a bird, same. Body of a aquatic, exactly. Anything that is there. Body, the planet,
rocks, material.
stars. See, the entire object which are so tangible to you, which seem so real to you, they are not illusions. Please understand. They are not some kind of a, you are not hallucinating when you see those objects. But they all have dependent reality. And that what? They are dependent, one thing is dependent on the other, that is again in turn dependent on the other, that in turn is dependent on the other. Where does it all end? It ends in awareness. Chit. Right? So therefore, now the whole universe that you see collapses into this awareness. The Janma, the coming into this universe is from where? This awareness, which what? There is some kind of an intelligence because of which what? This awareness is able to what? First manifest as what? The tiniest particles. Then it organizes to make into atoms. Then they reorganize to make into what?
Multiple atoms, multiple molecules.
Excellent. Multiple atoms, multiple molecules, which then give rise to different forms that we see, different matter that we see. So everything that is in the universe is nothing but different permutation and combination of what? Atoms and particles. And this awareness is from where? What?
The first particle comes out.
Exactly. The first particle comes. And then organize itself to become the universe. So that means this awareness, which is in your buddhi as a self-evident I, is not just some little entity. It is from where the entire Jagat comes. Now, the second question, which is a critical question, is what is the relationship between this awareness and time and space? Because every object exists within time and space. So that we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.